Teacher dances with disabled student in the yard, and the businessman father falls to his knees. Emily was gently holding little Ethan as she helped him balance on his walker. The 7-year-old boy beamed, his eyes shining with joy as he tried to follow the teacher's smooth movements. "That's it, Ethan, you can do it," Emily encouraged, tenderly holding his tiny hands. On the other side of the yard, hidden behind a pillar, Michael Patterson watched the scene with a tightness in his chest. The successful businessman, owner of one of the largest construction companies in New York City, had arrived early to pick up his son and stumbled upon this moment that left him frozen. Ethan, his only child, had been born with cerebral palsy. The doctors had been clear the boy would face severe challenges with mobility and motor coordination for the rest of his life. Michael had accepted the diagnosis as a life sentence, but there was his son dancing. "Miss Emily, look, I can move my foot like this," Ethan exclaimed, trying to lift his right foot a few inches off the ground. Emily knelt in front of him, her wavy brown hair falling over the shoulders of her light beige blouse. She had a special way of looking at Ethan, as if he were the most extraordinary child in the world. "You're amazing, sweetheart. I know you surprise me more every day." Michael felt his legs weaken. How many times had he looked at his son with pity? How many times had he focused only on the limitations, forgetting to celebrate the small victories? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, back to the story. Emily began humming a soft tune, moving her arms like the wings of a bird. Ethan tried to mimic her, his little face focused on the effort. The afternoon sun lit up the yard of Hope Academy, casting golden shadows on the polished concrete floor. "You know what we're going to do now?" Emily asked, adjusting the boy's blue walker. "We're going to imagine we're birds flying. High in the sky." "But Miss Emily, I can't really fly," Ethan replied with a hint of sadness in his voice. Emily gently tapped his nose with her index finger. "Oh, but who said we need real wings to fly? Sometimes, Ethan, the most powerful wings are the ones we carry right here." She placed her hand over the boy's heart. Michael swallowed hard. This woman, who couldn't have been more than 28, was teaching his son something he, with all his 45 years of life experience, had never managed to convey: hope. The businessman remembered the last doctor's appointment 2 weeks earlier. Dr. Wilson, the most renowned neurologist in New York City, had been blunt. Ethan was regressing. His movements were becoming more limited, his coordination worsening. Michael had left that office devastated, already planning to hire more physical therapists, more specialists, more imported equipment. But there was his son dancing with a teacher who probably earned 1/10 of what any of those specialists made. And Ethan was smiling in a way Michael hadn't seen in months. "Daddy always says I have to be strong," Ethan remarked as he tried to take a small step to the side, Emily supporting his little arms. "And you are strong, sweetheart, so strong. But you know what? Being strong doesn't mean not being scared or not crying. Being strong means keeping trying even when it's hard." Emily didn't know her words were being heard by someone other than Ethan. Michael, still hidden, felt each phrase like a dagger to his chest. How many times had he told his son not to cry, to be a big boy, to never show weakness? The afternoon was beginning to fade over the Upper East Side neighborhood. The schoolyard was nearly empty, with only a few custodial staff working in the distance. Emily had stayed after hours, as she did almost every day, to give Ethan special attention. "Teacher, why do you stay with me after class? The other teachers leave," Ethan asked with the innocence typical of children. Emily paused for a moment, adjusting the collar of the boy's light blue uniform shirt. How could she explain to a 7-year-old that she saw something special in him? That from the very first day of school, when Ethan arrived shy and withdrawn, she had fallen in love with that smile hidden behind his uncertainty? "Because you teach me things every day, Ethan. Did you know that?" "Me? But I can't even read well yet." Emily laughed, a crystalline sound that echoed across the empty yard. "You teach me about courage, about not giving up, about finding joy in the little things. Today, for example, you taught me that dancing isn't about moving perfectly, but about letting the music touch our hearts." Michael couldn't hold back any longer. The tears he had held in for years began to stream down his face. There was his son, the boy he had seen as a broken project needing fixing, teaching life lessons to a teacher. The businessman stepped forward, emerging from his hiding spot. The movement caught Emily's attention, and she turned in surprise. Her brown eyes widened as she recognized Ethan's father. "Mr. Patterson, I didn't know you had already arrived." But Michael couldn't speak. His legs gave way, and he fell to his knees right there in the middle of the yard. Years of restraint, of pretending everything was fine, of burying himself in work to avoid facing reality, all of it crumbled in that moment. "Daddy!" Ethan exclaimed, worried to see his father in that position. Emily quickly moved to Michael's side, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Mr. Patterson, are you all right?" Michael lifted his tear-streaked face and, for the first time in so long, truly looked at his son. He didn't see limitations. He didn't see a disability. He saw Ethan, his brave boy, who faced challenges every day that Michael himself couldn't even imagine. "Forgive me, son," the words came out broken. "Forgive me for not seeing, for not understanding." Ethan, with the wisdom only pure-hearted children possess, let go of his walker, and leaning on Emily, took 2 shaky steps toward his father. Just 2 steps, but to Michael, it was as if his son had crossed an ocean. "Don't cry, Daddy. Teacher Emily said crying isn't bad." Michael hugged his son, still on his knees, and Ethan returned the embrace with his thin little arms. Emily watched the scene with misty eyes, understanding she was witnessing a moment of profound transformation between father and son. "Your son is extraordinary, Mr. Patterson," she said softly. Michael looked at her, still holding Ethan. "I know, it's just... I had forgotten. Thank you for reminding me." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The schoolyard, which moments before had been just a concrete space, had become the stage for a long-overdue reconciliation. Emily helped Ethan back to his walker, and the boy gripped his father's hand tightly. "Daddy, did you see? I was dancing. Teacher Emily teaches me every day after class." "I saw, son, and you dance beautifully." Michael stood, wiping his face with the back of his hand. His $5,000 Italian suit was dusty from the ground, but he didn't care. He looked at Emily with a gratitude he couldn't put into words. "How long have you been doing this? Staying after hours with Ethan?" Emily blushed slightly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Since the beginning of the school year. Ethan told me once that he felt lonely during recess because he couldn't play like the other kids, so I started creating special activities for him." "And the school, does the administration know?" "Not officially. I do this because I want to, Mr. Patterson. Your son has incredible potential. He just needs someone to believe in him." Michael felt another wave of emotion. How many professionals had he hired? How many treated Ethan as just another clinical case, another patient? And there was this young teacher giving her personal time, simply out of love. "Daddy, tomorrow Miss Emily is going to teach me a new song. Can you come watch?" Michael looked at Emily, who nodded with a smile. "Of course I can, son. I'll leave the office early." It was a promise Michael had made dozens of times before and broken almost all of them. But something had changed that afternoon. The businessman who built skyscrapers and moved millions had been demolished and rebuilt by his son's smile and a teacher's dedication. As they walked toward the parking lot, Ethan holding each of their hands, Emily remarked, "Ethan told me you're building a new shopping center on the south side." "Yes, it's a big project. Should be done in 2 years. He's very proud of you, you know. The other day he told me he wants to build buildings that help people like him when he grows up." Michael stopped again, looking at his son. "Is that true, Ethan?" The boy nodded shyly. "It's just, I thought I could make buildings with really cool ramps and big elevators and places where kids like me can play too." Michael realized his son, at 7 years old, was already thinking about making the world more inclusive. While he, Michael, had spent the last 3 years just lamenting the limitations, Ethan was already dreaming of overcoming them and helping others. They reached Michael's black Cadillac, parked in the private spot. The driver, James, was already waiting with the door open, but Michael gestured for him to wait. "Emily, may I call you Emily?" Of course, Mr. Patterson. Please call me Michael. Emily, what you've done for my son, I don't even know how to thank you. No need to thank me. Ethan gives me so much more than I could ever repay. He teaches me about perseverance every day. Michael helped Ethan into the car, placing the walker in the trunk. Before leaving, he turned to Emily once more. Tomorrow I'll come to watch the dance lesson. And could we talk afterward? About Ethan? About everything? Emily nodded, her smile lighting up her face even in the dim evening light. Of course. Ethan and I usually finish around 5:30. As the car pulled away, Ethan chatted excitedly about the song he'd learned the next day. Michael listened to every word, every inflection in his son's voice. How had he wasted so much time focusing on what Ethan couldn't do instead of celebrating everything he could? "Daddy, you're different," Ethan observed with that sharp perception children have. "Different how, son?" "I don't know. More here." Ethan pointed to his own chest near his heart. Michael smiled, a single tear rolling down his face. "Yeah, son. I think I am." Night fell over New York City and traffic began to thicken. But inside that car, father and son shared a moment of connection that had been lost for far too long. The next day, Michael did something he hadn't done in years. He cancelled an important meeting. The $50 million contract with Johnson, construction would have to wait. He had a more important commitment. At 5 o'clock sharp, Michael was back in the schoolyard. This time he didn't hide. He sat on one of the benches, his impeccable suit standing out against the simple school setting. Emily appeared with Ethan a few minutes later. The boy practically vibrated with excitement when he saw his father. "Daddy, you really came. A promise is a promise, champ." Emily had prepared a small portable sound system. The music that started playing was soft, almost like a lullaby. Michael recognized it. "How Great Is My Love for You" by Elton John. "I chose this song because Ethan told me you used to sing it to him when he was a baby," Emily explained, and Michael felt his heart tighten. It was true. In the first weeks after the diagnosis, when he still held hope that the doctors were wrong, Michael would sing that song to Ethan every night. Later, as reality set in, he began to pull away, protecting himself from the pain with emotional distance. Ethan started moving slowly, Emily guiding his steps with infinite patience. The boy hummed along, his thin, sweet voice filling the courtyard. "I have so much to tell you, but with words I just can't say," Ethan sang, looking at his father. Michael stood up from the bench and walked over to them. Without thinking, he began to sing along, his deep voice harmonizing with his son's. Emily smiled, encouraging them. "How great is my love for you." And there in that school courtyard, a father and son danced together for the first time. It didn't matter that Ethan needed his walker. It didn't matter that his movements were limited. What mattered was the connection, the love that had been buried under fear and pain and now resurfaced with full force. Emily stepped back discreetly, letting father and son share the moment. She watched them with a smile on her lips and tears in her eyes. In her 3 years as a teacher, she had never witnessed anything so touching. When the song ended, Ethan was breathless from the effort, but his eyes shone with happiness. "Daddy, you danced with me." "Yes, I did, son, and you know what? I want to dance with you many more times." Michael looked at Emily, who was approaching again. "Emily, I spent all night thinking, you do this out of love, I understand. But would you consider doing it professionally too?" Emily tilted, her head confused. "What do you mean?" "I want to hire you as Ethan's private tutor, not to replace his therapies, but to complement them. To keep doing exactly what you do, teaching my son that he can fly, even without wings." Emily was speechless for a moment. Michael continued, "I'd pay, of course, whatever you think is fair. I just don't want you to have to do this in secret, after hours. I want it to be official, recognized." "Mr. Patterson." "Michael, I don't do this for money." "I know, that's exactly why you're the perfect person. Emily, you gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever, hope. And more importantly, you showed me that my son doesn't need to be fixed. He's perfect just the way he is." Ethan tugged on his father's pants. "Daddy, does that mean teacher Emily can teach me more dances?" "If she accepts, yes." Emily knelt in front of Ethan, holding his little hands. Would you like me to keep being your special dance teacher?" "Yes, 1,000 times yes," Ethan practically shouted, and the three of them laughed. "Then it's settled," Emily said, standing up. "But on one condition, Michael." "What?" "You have to join us. At least once a week, I want you to dance with us." Michael extended his hand to seal the deal. "Done." But Emily, instead of shaking his hand, hugged him. It was a brief, appropriate hug, but full of meaning. Michael understood in that moment that Emily wasn't just a special teacher. She was an angel who had entered their lives at just the right time. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us so much as we're just starting out. Now, continuing, in the weeks that followed, the Patterson family's life changed dramatically. Michael rearranged his schedule to be present for the dance sessions. What began as once a week soon became 3, then 4. The schoolyard became his favorite place. There, within those simple walls, he rediscovered his son. Ethan, in turn, blossomed under his father's attention. His movements, though still limited, grew more confident each day. Emily developed a unique method, combining music, movement, and storytelling. Each dance told a different adventure. Sometimes they were astronauts exploring space, other times fish swimming in the deep ocean. "You know what I've discovered?" Emily said one day, after a particularly emotional session, where Ethan managed to stand unsupported for 15 seconds. "The body responds to what the heart feels. When Ethan is happy and confident, his muscles seem to cooperate more." Michael mentally noted every observation. During business meetings, he caught himself thinking about Emily's words. How could he apply that simple wisdom to his corporate life? How often had he treated employees like machines rather than people with hearts and dreams? One afternoon, about a month after that first transformative meeting, Michael arrived earlier than usual. He found Emily in the schoolyard, but she wasn't alone. An older woman, whom Michael recognized as Mrs. Thompson, the school principal, was speaking to her in a serious tone. "Emily, I understand your dedication, but parents are starting to question. Why does Ethan Patterson get special treatment?" Michael stepped forward, ready to intervene, but Emily replied calmly, "Mrs. Thompson, every child in this school is special. Ethan needs extra attention because of his physical limitations, but I assure you no student is neglected." "I know, dear, but you stay after hours almost every day." "With my permission and compensation," Michael interrupted, stepping closer. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Thompson." The principal turned, surprised. "Mr. Patterson, I didn't know you were here." "Emily is Ethan's private tutor, in addition to his regular teacher. If there's any issue with that—" "No, not at all," Mrs. Thompson quickly said. "I was just concerned for Emily's well-being. She's one of our best teachers." "And that's exactly why she deserves all our support," Michael said firmly. "If other parents have questions, I'd be happy to speak with them about inclusion and empathy." After the principal left, Emily sighed in relief. "Thank you. I could have handled it, but—" "Emily, you're not alone in this. When you agreed to help Ethan, you became part of our family, and family protects family." Emily blushed, moved by his words. Just then, Ethan appeared, coming from art class with his hands covered in paint. "Teacher Emily, Daddy, look what I made." He held up a colorful drawing, 3 figures holding hands under a rainbow. The figures were clearly him, Emily, and Michael. "It's our dancing family," Ethan explained proudly. Michael and Emily exchanged a glance filled with emotion. The word family hung in the air between them, full of unspoken possibilities. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Emily said, carefully taking the drawing. "Shall we put it on our special board?" They had created a board in the corner of the schoolyard where they hung Ethan's drawings and photos of his progress. It was a visual timeline of his journey, each image telling a story of perseverance. As Emily helped Ethan hang the drawing, Michael watched. How many times had Jennifer, his ex-wife, suggested something similar at home? And how often had he dismissed it as silly or a waste of time? Her thoughts brought a wave of guilt. They had divorced when Ethan was 4 years old. The diagnosis had been the final blow to an already fragile marriage. She couldn't bear to see her husband emotionally withdraw, burying himself in work while she handled the therapies and doctors' appointments alone. Now she lived in Miami, visiting Ethan once a month. Michael wondered what she would think if she saw the changes in him and their son. "Daddy, are you sad?" Ethan asked, always perceptive. "No, son, just thoughtful. When I get thoughtful, Miss Emily says I should dance. It helps clear my mind." Michael laughed, ruffling his son's curly hair. "Then let's dance." Emily turned on the music, and a cheerful tune filled the courtyard. It was The Notebook by James Taylor, one of Ethan's favorites. As they danced, Michael realized his son was right. Movement really did clear the mind. But what also became clear was something Michael had been trying to ignore. His feelings for Emily were growing. Beyond gratitude, the way she cared for Ethan, her endless patience, her smile that lit up any room, Michael found himself thinking about her at random moments during the day. It was inappropriate, he knew. Emily was nearly 20 years younger than him. She was his son's teacher. There were a million reasons to keep things strictly professional, but when she laughed at Ethan's silly jokes, when her eyes shone with pride at every little achievement of his, when she touched Michael's shoulder, in a gesture of support, it was hard to ignore the connection forming between them. "Michael?" Emily called, pulling him from his thoughts. "Ethan's tired. I think we should stop for today." Sure enough, Ethan was breathing heavily, leaning heavily on his walker. Michael immediately went to his son. "Let's go home and rest, champ. But I want to keep dancing." "There's more tomorrow," Emily assured him. "And guess what? I'm preparing a surprise for you." Ethan's eyes widened. "A surprise? What is it?" "If I tell you, it won't be a surprise, but I promise you'll love it." On the way home, Ethan excitedly speculated about what the surprise might be. Michael listened with a smile, but his mind was on the conversation he needed to have with Emily. Things were getting emotionally complicated, and the last thing he wanted was for it to affect her relationship with Ethan. That night, after putting Ethan to bed, Michael stood in his home office gazing out the window. The view of the Upper East Side stretched before him, lights twinkling like earthly stars. How many nights had he spent there, working late, while Ethan slept alone? His phone rang. It was Emily. "Sorry for calling so late," she began. "It's about tomorrow's surprise. I need to confirm a few details with you." "Of course, go ahead." "Well, I reached out to an inclusive dance group. They perform with children with disabilities. I thought we could take Ethan to watch, show him there are many others like him who dance." Michael felt his heart warm. "Emily, that's perfect. He'll love it. There's more. They're looking for new members. If Ethan likes it, and if you agree, he could join." The idea of his son performing dancing in public was both terrifying and wonderful. What would the doctors say? "I spoke with his physical therapist, Dr. Rebecca. She thinks it would be excellent for his motor and emotional development." Michael realized Emily had thought of everything. She had prepared, consulted professionals. She wasn't just a dreamer. She was practical and careful. "Emily, I don't know how to thank you for everything you do." "You don't have to thank me, Michael. Seeing Ethan's smile is payment enough." There was a comfortable silence on the line. Michael wanted to say more, to talk about the confusing feelings consuming him, but the words wouldn't come. "Well then, tomorrow at 3? Emily broke the silence. "We'll be there." After hanging up, Michael remained in the darkness of his office. Life had taken unexpected turns. The tough businessman who built empires was being rebuilt by the love of a boy and the dedication of a teacher. The next day, Michael cancelled important appointments again. His assistant Kevin didn't even question it anymore. He had noticed the change in his boss over the past few weeks. "Mr. Patterson is different," he commented to the secretary, Haley. "More human." Haley, who had worked with Michael for 15 years, agreed. "It's the boy and that teacher. They're working miracles, and miracles were exactly what seemed to be happening." When they arrived at the theater where the inclusive dance group would perform, Ethan was buzzing with excitement. Emily waited for them at the entrance, beautiful in a simple blue dress that brought out her eyes. "Ready for a magical afternoon?" she asked. The theater was small, intimate. About 100 people in the audience, many of them families, gay of children with various disabilities. Michael immediately felt welcomed. There were no pitying stares or morbid curiosity here, just understanding. When the curtains opened and the first children appeared on stage, Ethan gripped his father's hand tightly. There were children in wheelchairs with crutches, walkers, some with visible disabilities, others not. But they all danced. The music was What Is It by Billy Joel, and the children moved with contagious joy. It wasn't about technical perfection, it was about expression, about freedom, about being. "Daddy, they're like me," Ethan whispered in awe. "Yes, son, and look how amazing they are." Emily watched Ethan's face, seeing the exact moment he realized his dreams weren't impossible, that there was a place for him in the world of dance, of movement, of art. When the performance ended, Ethan was in tears. Tears of joy, of discovery, of belonging. "I want to do this, Daddy. I want to dance like them." Michael looked at Emily, who smiled, with her eyes also glistening. "Then let's make it happen, champ." The group's coordinator, a woman named Diane, who herself used crutches due to childhood polio, approached them. "Emily told me about Ethan. We'd love to have him in our group." As Diane explained how rehearsals worked, Michael watched Ethan excitedly chatting with other children in the group. His son, who had always been shy and withdrawn, was making friends, laughing, gesturing. "It's amazing, isn't it?" Emily commented beside him. "Seeing them realize they're not alone. You knew this would happen, that he'd connect, open up." Emily shrugged modestly. "I hoped. Ethan has so much love to give, he just needed to find people who'd accept him without judgment." Michael looked at her for a long moment. How could someone so young be so wise? "Emily, I need to confess something." She turned to him, curious. "You've changed our lives. Not just Ethan's, mine too. I was a bitter man, focused only on work, running from reality. You showed me that reality, even with its challenges, can be beautiful." Emily blushed, lowering her eyes. "Michael, you don't need to say anything. I just wanted you to know. You're special, Emily. Very special." Before the conversation could continue, Ethan came running back, or as close to running as he could manage with his walker. "Daddy, Teacher Emily, Aunt Diane said I can start rehearsals next week. And there's a boy, Jacob, he has the same thing as me, and he can break dance in his wheelchair." Ethan's excitement was contagious. Michael hugged him, feeling his son's little heart racing against his chest. "I'm so proud of you, son. And I'm going to dance in the next show in 3 months. You'll come watch, right?" "We wouldn't miss it for the world," Emily assured him. On the way back, Ethan fell asleep in the car, exhausted by the day's excitement. Michael drove in silence, Emily in the passenger seat. The intimacy of the moment wasn't lost on either of them. "Can I ask you something personal?" Michael broke the silence. "Of course. Why did you choose to be a teacher? With your intelligence and sensitivity, you could have done anything." Emily smiled, watching the city lights pass by outside the window. "My younger brother has Down syndrome. I grew up seeing how some teachers made a difference in his life and how others just gave up. I promised myself I'd be the kind of teacher who sees potential where others see limitations." Michael absorbed the information, another piece of the puzzle that was Emily falling into place. "Your brother's lucky to have you. Just like Ethan's lucky to have a father who's learning to see him for who he is." They arrived at the school, where Emily had left her car. As she got out, she hesitated. "Michael, about what you said earlier. Emily, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. I know there are professional boundaries." "It's not that," she interrupted. "It's just, I feel like something's changed too between us. But Ethan has to come first, always." "I completely agree." They looked at each other under the dim parking lot light, 1,000 unspoken words hanging in the air. "So we keep going as we are?" Emily suggested. "Focused on Ethan and see where life takes us?" Michael nodded, relieved she'd put his feelings into words. "Sounds perfect." Emily leaned in and kissed his cheek softly before walking to her car. Michael stood still, his hand touching the spot where her lips had been, watching her drive. Away, in the back seat, Ethan murmured something in his sleep. Michael glanced in the rearview mirror and smiled. His son was clutching his backpack, where he kept the flyer for the dance group. The following months brought profound change. Ethan began rehearsals with the inclusive dance group, and blossomed in ways neither Michael nor the doctors had predicted. His coordination improved, his confidence soared, and for the first time he made real friends. Michael completely reshuffled his priorities. He delegated more responsibilities at the company, cut back on travel, and made sure he left work at 3 p.m. sharp on Wednesdays and Fridays, no exceptions. Those were Ethan's rehearsal days. Emily continued their private sessions, but they had evolved. They weren't just about movement anymore, but about preparing Ethan for group rehearsals, building his stamina, his expressiveness. The relationship between Michael and Emily stayed in that grey area between professional and personal. There were touches that lingered a second too long, glances that spoke volumes, conversations that danced around unspoken feelings. One afternoon, a month before Ethan's performance, Michael arrived at rehearsal to find his son in tears. Emily was comforting him while Diane spoke to other parents. "What happened?" Michael rushed over. "Dad, Jake said I dance ugly. That I look like a broken robot," Ethan sobbed. Michael felt fury rise in his chest. How dare anyone hurt his son? But Emily touched his arm, a silent plea for calm. "Ethan, look at me," she said gently. "Remember what we talked about, how everyone has their own special way of dancing?" Ethan nodded, sniffling. "Jake's having a hard day. His mom told me he had to increase his medication, and he's feeling frustrated. Sometimes when we're mad at ourselves, we say mean things to others. But he's my friend, and it will continue to be. Friends sometimes fight, but what matters is apologizing and forgiving. How about we give him some time to calm down and then you can talk?" Michael watched Emily handle the situation with grace. She didn't minimize Ethan's pain, but she didn't villainize Jacob either. It was a lesson in empathy in action. Later, Ethan and Jacob made up, just as Emily had predicted. The two boys rehearsed together for the rest of the afternoon, laughing as if nothing had happened. "How do you do that?" Michael asked Emily as they watched the boys. "Do what?" "Always know exactly what to say, how to act." Emily blushed. "I don't always know. I make mistakes too. But I've learned that children, especially children who already face so many challenges, need someone who believes in their goodness, even when they forget it themselves." Michael had to restrain himself from kissing her right then and there. Each passing day made it harder to keep the proper distance. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. The week of the performance arrived with a mix of excitement and nerves. Ethan rehearsed his part obsessively at home, and Emily came over almost every day for extra sessions. On the Wednesday before the big day, Michael came home to find Emily and Ethan in the garden. They had set up an improvised stage with bed sheets and Christmas lights. Ethan was performing his dance while Emily filmed with her phone. "Dad," Ethan spotted him, "we're doing a dress rehearsal." Michael sat on the grass, still in his suit, and watched his son dance. The choreography was adapted to his limitations, but Ethan performed with so much feeling that the limitations became irrelevant. When he finished, Michael stood and applauded. "Bravo, absolutely wonderful." Ethan took an awkward bow, nearly losing his balance, but the smile on his face made any stumble worth it. "Emily's helping me with my facial expressions. She says the face tells the story as much as the body does. And she's absolutely right," Michael agreed. After Ethan went to bed, exhausted, Michael and Emily stayed in the garden, dismantling the makeshift stage. The night was starry, a rare sight in the New York City sky. "Thank you for all of this," Michael said as he coiled the lights, "for turning his dream into reality." Ethan turned his own dream into reality. I just helped show him the way. They worked in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Emily tripped over a wire, and Michael caught her before she fell. For a moment, they stood too close, breathing the same air. "Michael," Emily began. "I know," he said. "I know we promised to keep things as they are. But Emily, it's getting harder and harder to pretend I don't feel what I feel." Emily closed her eyes, still in his arms. "For me too. But Ethan comes first. Always. I would never do anything that could hurt your relationship with him." She opened her eyes, and Michael saw the same conflict in them that he felt. "After the performance," she said finally, After Ethan has his big moment, can we talk about us? Michael nodded, reluctantly letting her go. After the performance. The big day arrived on a sunny Saturday. The theater was packed, filled with families of all kinds gathered to celebrate their special children. Michael was backstage with Ethan, helping with last-minute preparations. His son wore a bright blue costume Emily had helped pick out. His walker had been decorated with matching ribbons, turning it from a medical device into part of the performance. "Dad, I'm nervous," Ethan confessed. "Want to know a secret? So am I." "You? But you speak in front of thousands of people at work. It's different when it's someone you love on that stage. But you know what? Being nervous means it's important to us, and you're going to be amazing." Emily appeared, radiant in a red dress. "How's our star doing?" "Nervous," Ethan admitted. Emily knelt in front of him. "Remember what we practiced? Take a deep breath, let it out slowly. And when you're up there on stage, don't dance for the audience. Dance for yourself by yourself." Ethan nodded, doing the breathing exercise. Michael and Emily exchanged a glance over the boy's head, a silent communication of mutual support. "5 minutes," Diane announced. Michael kissed his son's forehead. "I love you, champ, no matter what happens out there." "I love you too, Dad." "And you too, Miss Emily." Emily hugged Ethan carefully so as not to wrinkle his costume. "I love you too, my little dancer. Now go show the world your light." Michael and Emily hurried to the audience, finding seats in the 3rd row. As the lights dimmed, Michael felt Emily take his hand. He interlaced his fingers with hers, needing the contact as much as she did. The curtains opened. The show began with the older children, demonstrating impressive skills despite their limitations. Each performance was unique, each child bringing their personality to the dance. Then came Ethan's turn. He walked onto the stage slowly, his walker making a rhythmic sound against the wooden floor. The music began. The Notebook by James Taylor, a choice by Emily that spoke of dreams and possibilities. Ethan started to move. His steps were measured, careful, but there was a grace in them that transcended technique. He told a story with his body about a boy learning to fly even with his feet bound to the ground. Michael felt tears streaming freely. Beside him, Emily was also crying, her hand squeezing his tightly. On stage, Ethan spun, a move they had practiced hundreds of times. For a second he faltered, and Michael held his breath. But Ethan recovered, smiling, incorporating the near stumble into the dance as if it were planned. When the music reached its crescendo, Ethan did something unexpected. He let go of the walker. The audience collectively gasped. Ethan stood there alone for 1, 2, 3 seconds. Then he took a step. Another. His arms spread like wings. Emily covered her mouth with her free hand, stifling a sob. Michael couldn't blink, afraid to miss a single second. Ethan took 5 steps on his own before returning to the safety of the walker. But those 5 steps were a declaration. I can, I will, I am. The music ended. For a moment, silence reigned. Then the theater erupted in applause. People stood, tears streaming down dozens of faces. Ethan bowed, his smile so bright it seemed to light up the entire stage. Michael was on his feet, clapping until his hands hurt. Emily beside him cheered through her tears. On stage, Ethan searched for them in the audience, and when he found them, he blew a kiss. The rest of the show passed in a blur. Michael could barely focus, replaying Ethan's performance in his mind. When the curtains finally closed, he and Emily rushed backstage. Ethan was waiting, buzzing with adrenaline. Did you see? I let go of the walker. It wasn't in the rehearsal, but I felt like I could do it. Michael hugged him tightly, lifting him off the ground. You were perfect, absolutely perfect. Emily, Ethan called, still in his father's arms. I danced my way, just like you said. Emily joined the hug, and for a moment, the three of them stood there, united in a circle of love and triumph. Other families began to approach, congratulating Ethan. Jacob came running, his eyes shining with admiration. Ethan, you were incredible. When you let go of the walker, I almost screamed. The two boys hugged, any trace of their earlier fight completely forgotten. As the commotion died down and families began to disperse, Michael, Emily, and Ethan headed to a nearby ice cream parlor to celebrate. Ethan chose the largest sundae on the menu, his eyes still sparkling with excitement. "Daddy, can I ask you something?" Ethan said between spoonfuls of ice cream. "Of course, son. Why were you and Miss Emily holding hands at the theater?" Michael choked on his coffee. Emily blushed deeply. They had completely forgotten Ethan might have seen. "Well," Michael began, searching for the right words. "It's because you like each other, right?" Ethan continued with the blunt honesty of a child. "Like Uncle Robert and Aunt Amanda from apartment 12, who hold hands in the elevator." Emily covered her face with her hands, laughing nervously. Michael decided honesty was the best approach. "Ethan, how would you feel if I said, yes, I really like Emily? Not just as your teacher, but as someone special?" Ethan thought for a moment, his face serious. "Do you like her like you want to get married, like in the movies?" Michael glanced at Emily, who lowered her hands, waiting. "I don't know yet. Grown-up relationships are complicated. But yes, I like her in a special way. And you, Miss Emily, do you like my dad?" Emily took a deep breath. "I do, Ethan. A lot. But you know what I like even more? You. And nothing will ever change that." Ethan processed this as he attacked the whipped cream on his sundae. "Okay," he said finally, "but if you get married, can I call you Mom?" The question caught Emily completely off guard. Tears welled in her eyes. "Ethan, I'd be honored, but let's take it slow, okay? One step at a time." "Okay, but it'd be cool. Madison in my class has 2 moms, and she says it's awesome." Michael took Emily's hand on the table, no longer caring to hide it. "So you're really okay with this?" he asked his son. "Of course. You both make me happy. If you make each other happy too, even better." The simplicity of a child's logic cut through all the adult complications. Michael squeezed Emily's hand, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. After dropping Ethan off with the babysitter, the boy was exhausted from the day's excitement. Michael and Emily went for a walk in Central Park. The sun was setting, painting the sky in gold and pink. "So," Emily began as they walked side by side, "it seems we have Ethan's blessing." "His opinion was the only one that really mattered," Michael agreed. "Emily, I know there are a lot of complications. The age difference, you being his teacher." "I've thought a lot about that," Emily interrupted. "About ethics, about what's right. But Michael, what I feel for you and for Ethan isn't something I chose, it just happened." They stopped near the lake, watching the ducks glide across the water. "When I first saw you, kneeling in the schoolyard crying," Emily continued, "I saw a man breaking down his own walls out of love for his son. How could I not fall for that?" Michael turned her toward him, cradling her face in his hands. "You saved us, Emily, me and Ethan. You brought light where there was only darkness." "You saved me too," she whispered. "You showed me there are still men who change, who grow, who love unconditionally." Michael kissed her then, right there in the park, with the sky ablaze behind them. It was a gentle kiss, full of promises and possibilities. When they pulled apart, both had tears in their eyes. "Let's do this right," Michael said. "No rushing, no pressure. Ethan is still the priority." "I agree. But Michael, let's not pretend anymore that there's nothing between us." "Never again," he promised. In the months that followed, they carefully navigated their new relationship. Emily continued to be Ethan's teacher at school, maintaining total professionalism. But on weekends, she joined them for outings, dinners, and family moments. Ethan flourished even more with this dynamic. Having Emily more present in his daily life brought an emotional stability that reflected in his physical development. The doctors were impressed with his progress. One day, 6 months after the performance, Michael was in his office when Kevin, his assistant, walked in with a strange expression. "Mr. Patterson, there's a woman here to see you. She says it's urgent. Her name is Jennifer Miller." Michael froze. His ex-wife. She hadn't told him she was coming to New York City. "Send her in." Jennifer entered like a hurricane. She was still a beautiful woman, blonde, elegant, but there was a hardness in her eyes that hadn't been there when they were married. Michael. "Jennifer, what brings you to New York City? Ethan is fine. If that's what—" "I know Ethan is fine," she interrupted. In fact, from what he's told me on the phone, he's better than ever. Dancing, performing with a new girlfriend for his father. Michael understood. She was jealous. Not of him, but of the life they were building without her. Jennifer, you chose to leave. I chose to walk away from a husband who had become a stranger, one who buried himself in work and left me alone to handle everything. You're right, I was a terrible husband and an even worse father, but I'm trying to change to be better. With the help of the little teacher, it seems, she said venomously. Emily has been crucial, yes, but Jennifer, that doesn't change anything between you and Ethan. You'll always be his mother. Jennifer sat down, suddenly looking tired. He barely talks about me when we call. It's Emily this, Emily that. You took her to his performance, Michael, in the place that should have been mine. Michael felt a pang of guilt. It was true. They had been so caught up in their new dynamic that they hadn't considered how Jennifer would feel excluded. You're right. We should have told you, insisted you come. I'm sorry. Jennifer seemed surprised by the apology. I want to spend more time with Ethan. Maybe move back to New York City. Michael nodded. That would be wonderful for him. Jennifer, Emily will never replace you, but she loves Ethan, and he loves her. Can't we all work together for his sake? Do you love her? Jennifer asked directly. Yes. And does she love you? I believe so. Jennifer sighed. You really have changed. The Michael I knew would never talk about feelings so openly. People change, Jennifer, sometimes for the better. She stood up. I want to meet her. This Emily. If she's going to be part of my son's life, I need to know who she is. Of course, let's arrange a dinner, all of us together. Jennifer left, leaving Michael thoughtful. Another complication in an already complex situation, but he was determined to make it work. For Ethan. The dinner took place the following Saturday. Michael chose a neutral restaurant, neither too formal nor too casual. Emily was visibly nervous, adjusting her napkin a dozen times. Relax, Michael whispered. It'll be fine. Ethan was excited to see his mother, chattering about everything that had happened since her last visit. Jennifer listened attentively, occasionally casting assessing glances at Emily. Mom, you have to see the new move I learned. Emily taught me. I'd love to see, sweetheart, Jennifer replied, then turned to Emily. Ethan tells me you've been teaching for 3 years, quite young for so much responsibility. Emily didn't back down. Age is just a number. What matters is dedication and love for what we do. And you love what you do? I do, especially when I can make a difference in the lives of children, like Ethan. Michael watched the subtle verbal duel, ready to step in if needed. But Emily was holding her own. Mom, Emily has a brother with Down syndrome, Ethan chimed in. She told me he dances too. Jennifer softened a bit. Really? What's his name? Anthony, Emily replied. He's 16 now. My daily inspiration. Dinner continued with less tension. Jennifer asked about Emily's methods, the dance group, and future plans. Emily answered everything honestly and calmly. When Ethan went to the bathroom, accompanied by Michael, Jennifer and Emily were left alone. You really love him, don't you, my son? With all my heart, Emily answered without hesitation. And Michael? Him too. But Jennifer, I need you to know I'd never try to take your place. You're Ethan's mother, always will be. I just want to add, not replace. Jennifer studied Emily for a long moment. You know, I came here ready to hate you, the young, beautiful woman who won over my family. They're still your family. No, dear, Michael and I were a family. Now we're parents to the same child, which is different. And you know what? Seeing how Ethan lights up when he talks about you, how Michael's changed, I think I could learn to like you. Emily reached her hand across the table. Can we try for Ethan? Jennifer squeezed her hand. For Ethan. When Michael and Ethan returned, they found the two women discussing physical therapy techniques. Michael exchanged a surprised glance with Emily, who shrugged subtly. The rest of dinner was surprisingly pleasant. Jennifer shared stories of Ethan as a baby, Emily offered techniques for home exercises, and Michael mediated with his newfound emotional communication skills. As they said goodbye, Jennifer hugged Ethan tightly. "I'll be back next month, okay? And I want to watch you dance." "You can come to rehearsal," Ethan suggested. "Emily's always there." Jennifer looked at Emily. "May I?" "Of course, you're welcome." In the Cadillac on the way home, Ethan was beaming. "It's so cool that my mom and Emily are friends now." Michael laughed. "Yeah, son, really cool." He took Emily's hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. She smiled, knowing they'd overcome another hurdle. Months turned into a year. Michael and Emily's relationship grew stronger, always with Ethan at the center. Jennifer did return to New York City, renting an apartment nearby. The dynamic was sometimes complicated, but everyone worked for Ethan's sake. The boy kept surpassing all expectations. It wasn't miraculous. He still had cerebral palsy, still needed his walker. But his confidence, joy, and determination inspired everyone around him. Emily officially moved into Michael's house after a year of dating. Ethan was thrilled, helping decorate what would be her office. "We can put a big mirror here," he suggested, "for dance practice." One evening, Michael found Emily crying in that office. Worried, he rushed to her. "What's wrong?" She showed him a paper, a medical test. "Emily, are you pregnant?" she whispered. "I know we didn't plan this. It's early, and Ethan—" Michael silenced her with a kiss. "It's perfect. You're perfect. Ethan's going to have a little brother or sister. You think he'll be happy? Let's find out." They told Ethan at breakfast the next morning. The boy was silent so long Michael grew concerned. Then Ethan burst into a grin. "I'm gonna be a big brother, like Jacob with his little sister?" "Yes, sweetheart," Emily confirmed. "That's awesome," Ethan shouted. "I'll teach them to dance. Even if they're born with legs like mine, it doesn't matter." Michael and Emily shared a tearful glance. Their son, with all his 8-year-old wisdom, had just voiced the most important lesson. Limitations don't define possibilities. Jennifer received the news with surprising grace. "Ethan needs siblings," she said simply. "And you're good parents. Congratulations." Emily's pregnancy was followed with the same care and love that characterized everything in their lives now. Ethan attended every ultrasound, fascinated by the images of the baby. "Look, he's dancing," Ethan exclaimed during one exam, watching the baby move. "Just like me." When Olivia was born, a healthy, perfect little girl, Ethan was the first to hold her after the parents. With infinite care, leaning on his new walker, this one decorated with superhero stickers, he looked at his baby sister. "Hi, Olivia. I'm Ethan, your big brother. I'll teach you everything, how to dance, how to laugh, how to be strong, and you know what? If your legs are different like mine, it's okay. We'll dance our own way." Emily openly wept. Michael wasn't doing much better. There in that hospital room, their family was complete. It wasn't the family he'd imagined years ago, but it was perfect in its imperfection. 2 years later, in the same theater where Ethan had danced for the first time, the Patterson family occupied the front row. Ethan, now 10 years old, was one of the lead dancers in the group. He had developed a unique style, incorporating his walker into movements that defied expectations. Emily held Olivia, now 2, who clapped excitedly at the sight of her brother. On stage, Michael had one arm around Emily, the other holding a bouquet of flowers for Ethan. Even Jennifer was there, filming everything on her phone, tears of pride in her eyes. When Ethan appeared on stage, there was a surprise. He wasn't alone. Jacob was with him, and together they performed a dance about friendship and overcoming obstacles, one they had choreographed themselves. At the end, when Ethan took not 5 but 10 steps without his walker, the theater erupted in applause. But the most emotional moment came when Ethan took the microphone. "I want to thank some special people," his amplified voice echoed. "My dad, who taught me that men can cry and change. My mom, Jennifer, who gave me life. My mom, Emily, who taught me to dance with my heart. And my little sister, Olivia, who shows me every day that love has no limits." This time, Michael didn't try to hold back his tears. He let them flow freely as he hugged Emily and Olivia. On stage, Ethan smiled, shining under the lights, proving to the world that disability is just a word, but determination, and love are unstoppable forces. After the performance in the dressing room crowded with families, Emily pulled Michael aside. "I have something to tell you," she whispered. "What?" "Remember when I went to the doctor last week? Well, Olivia's going to have company." Michael stared at her, processing. "You're pregnant again, twins this time." Michael spun her in the air, laughing with pure joy. Ethan, noticing the commotion, came over. "What happened?" "Your mum has some news, champ." Emily knelt to be at Ethan's eye level. "You're going to be a big brother again, twice over." Ethan's eyes widened. "Twins? Like Tyler and Ryan from my class?" "Exactly." Ethan thought for a moment. "We'll need more mirrors in the dance studio, and maybe tiny walkers if they need them. Oh, and we can make our own dance group, the Dancing Patterson family." Michael laughed, ruffling his son's hair. "Always thinking about dancing, huh?" "It's what Emily taught me," Ethan said simply. "When life gets hard, we dance. When we're happy, we dance. Dancing is living." And there, in that cramped dressing, a room surrounded by love and possibilities, the Patterson family did just that. They danced. Ethan with his walker, Olivia in Emily's arms, Michael hugging them all, moving to the sound of a song only they could hear. The song of a family that learned the greatest limitations are the ones we impose on ourselves, and that true love knows no barriers. 5 years had passed in the blink of an eye. The twins, Noah and Emma, were born healthy and became the joy of the house. Ethan, now 15, had become an inspiration not just for his family, but for the entire community. He created a blog called Dancing Without Limits, where he shared videos, tips, and messages of hope for other children and teens with disabilities. Emily helped him with the content, while Michael handled the technical side. The blog went viral when a video of Ethan teaching the 5-year-old twins to dance was shared by a celebrity. Within weeks, thousands of messages poured in from all over the country. "Dad, look at this." Ethan showed one message in particular. It's from a girl in Seattle. She says she was about to give up on physical therapy, but after watching my videos, she decided to keep going. And now she's dancing too. Michael felt pride swell in his chest. His son wasn't just a survivor, he was a beacon of hope for others. Emily walked into the office, now transformed into a dance and recording studio, with Olivia clinging to her back and the twins running around. "Ethan, a special letter came for you." It was an invitation. The Department of Education wanted Ethan to be an ambassador for a new school inclusion program. He would travel across the country, giving talks and workshops on overcoming challenges and inclusion. This is huge," Ethan exclaimed, nearly dropping his walker from excitement. "Are you going to accept?" Michael asked, though he already knew the answer. "Of course, but..." Ethan looked at Emily. "You're coming with me, right? I can't do this without you." Emily hugged the teenager, who was now almost her height. "Always, my dear, always." Their first trip was to Boston. Michael rearranged his schedule to join them, taking the whole family along. In the auditorium packed with teachers and students, Ethan stepped onto the stage with confidence. "Hi, everyone. My name is Ethan, I'm 15 and I dance. Maybe not the way you imagine, but in my own way. And today, I'm here to tell you that each of you can dance in your own way too." He told his story about the father who learned to cry, the teacher who became a mother, the family built on love, not perfection. He showed videos of himself dancing at 7, comparing them to clips from today. "See, I still use a walker. I still have cerebral palsy. That hasn't changed. What changed is how I see it. It's not a limitation, it's a characteristic, like having brown eyes or being left-handed." At the end, he invited volunteers to the stage. Children with and without disabilities came up. Emily played a song, and everyone danced together, each in their own way. A girl in a wheelchair spun around, laughing. A boy with autism swayed to his own rhythm. An elderly teacher moved her arms from her seat. Ethan stood in the middle, orchestrating this symphony of differences. Michael filmed it all, tears streaming unashamedly. Beside him, Jennifer, who had come to support her son, held his hand. "We raised a good boy," she whispered. With a lot of help, Michael replied, glancing at Emily. With a lot of special help. After the talk, hundreds of people wanted to speak with Ethan. He listened patiently to each one, especially the children. A little girl on crutches approached, shyly. "Do you think I can dance too?" Ethan knelt with difficulty, meeting her eye level. "What's your name?" "Lily." "Lily, you're already dancing. Every step you take is a dance. Want me to show you?" And there in the auditorium lobby, Ethan and Lily created a small choreography using her crutches as part of the movements. Within minutes, other children joined in and an impromptu party began. Emily approached Michael. "He surpasses himself every day," she said emotionally. "Just when I think it can't get any better, he surprises me." "He learned from the best," Michael replied, kissing her forehead. "The woman who taught us that dancing is more than just moving. The body." That night at the hotel, the Patterson family gathered in Michael and Emily's room. The twins were already asleep, and Olivia was fighting sleep in Jennifer's arms, who had decided to join the entire tour. "I'm proud of you, son," Jennifer said to Ethan, "of the man you're becoming. Thank you, Mom, for everything. For coming back, for accepting our different family. Family is family," Jennifer said simply, "no matter what it looks like." Ethan turned to Michael and Emily. "You know what I realized today? When that girl Lily smiled while dancing. It was exactly how I felt when Emily danced with me for the first time. Like the world suddenly had more colors. Emily couldn't hold back her tears. You remember? I remember every second of you telling me I could fly without wings, of Dad crying on his knees. That day changed everything." Michael hugged his son. "For me too, champ, for me too." The tour continued for 6 months. Philadelphia, San Diego, Baltimore, Denver, Portland. In every city, Ethan touched lives, changed perspectives, planted seeds of hope. Emily documented everything, creating materials that would be distributed in schools. Michael handled the logistics, having discovered he could run his business from anywhere, as long as he was with his family. The twins became the tour's mascots, showing in every performance that typical and atypical children could play and learn together. Olivia, at 7 years old, created a special dance with Ethan that went viral. The siblings dance. But it was in Washington, D.C. at the final performance for officials and educators from across the country that the true impact of Ethan's work became clear. The Secretary of Education announced that the Dancing Without Limits program would be implemented in all public schools nationwide. Teachers would be trained using the methods developed by Emily. Ethan would be the official consultant, traveling periodically to oversee the implementation. This means, Ethan tried to process, this means millions of children will learn to dance in their own way, Emily finished, hugging him. Your dream, Ethan, it's coming true. On stage, receiving an honorary medal for educational merit, Ethan searched for his family in the audience. Michael, Emily, the twins, Olivia, Jennifer, all there, supporting, loving, believing. I want to share this honor with the people who made it possible, Ethan said into the microphone. My family. Not the perfect family from commercials, but the real family, built from love, acceptance, and the desire to be better. Dad, who taught me that change is possible. Mom Emily, who showed me that limitations exist only in our minds. Mom Jennifer, who gave me strength even from afar. My siblings, who remind me every day that different is just different, not better or worse. He raised the medal. This isn't mine, it's ours, and it belongs to every child who will learn they can dance, not despite their differences, but because of them. The ovation was deafening. Michael didn't try to be strong, he cried openly. Comforted by Noah and Emma, who at 5 years old had already learned that crying from happiness was allowed and even encouraged in the Patterson family. After the ceremony, as they celebrated at a restaurant in Washington, D.C., Ethan suddenly grew quiet. What is it, sweetheart? Emily noticed first. I was thinking, it's been 8 years since that day in the courtyard. 8 years since you taught me to dance, Emily. Since Dad cried in front of me for the first time. Feels like yesterday. Michael commented. And feels like a lifetime ago, Ethan continued. I was so small, so scared. I thought being different was bad. Now I know being different is my superpower. Olivia, ever the dramatic one, raised her juice glass. A toast to Ethan, the best dancer brother in the world. To Ethan. Everyone cheered, but Ethan raised his hand. No, a toast to our family. To Emily, who chose us. To Dad, who chose to change. To Mom Jennifer, who chose to come back. To my siblings, who choose me every day. And to everyone who will choose to dance with us from now on. They toasted, an unlikely family bound by choices, not by chance. Michael looked around the table. His wise beyond his years teenage son, Emily pregnant with their fourth child, a surprise announced that morning, Jennifer helping the twins. With their pastor, Olivia telling an elaborate story to anyone who'd listen. It wasn't the life he'd planned as a young man. It was infinitely better. 3 years later, Ethan, now 18, was in his room recording a special video for the blog. Hey everyone, today's a special day, exactly 10 years since. My life changed, since I met someone who taught me to fly, and guess what? Today she's getting a very special honor. The camera cut to Lincoln Center, packed to the brim. On stage, Emily, now 38, was receiving the National Inclusive Education Award. 8 months pregnant with their 5th child, a girl who'd be named Haley, she glowed in a specially tailored blue dress. 10 years ago, Emily began her speech. A boy taught me that teaching is learning, that the greatest lessons come from the simplest moments. Ethan Patterson came into my life needing help to move, but he was the one who moved me. The camera showed Michael in the audience, now gray-haired but with the same loving gaze as ever. Beside him, their 4 younger children, Olivia at 10, the twins at 8, and Mason at 3. The Dancing Without Limits method was born in a schoolyard, Emily continued, from an inexperienced teacher and a brave little boy. Today, 3 million children across the US dance in their own way. But none of this would have been possible without the family that formed around this dream. Ethan stepped onto the stage, now a young man. He still used a walking aid, but he developed a unique elegance in his movements. Emily, he said into the mic, you say I taught you, but you're the one who showed me I could. Not just dance, but fly, dream, inspire. So on behalf of every child you've touched, every family you've transformed, we want to give you something. Olivia joined him on stage with a box. Inside was a necklace with a special pendant, a bird with outstretched wings, made of tiny diamonds Michael had commissioned. For the woman who taught us to fly, Ethan said as he fastened it around Emily's neck. Emily wept, hugging Ethan, then Olivia, then Michael, who'd come on stage with their other children. Jennifer in the audience filmed it all, tears streaming down her face too. 10 years ago, Emily managed through tears, I was just a teacher trying to make a difference. Today I'm a mother, a wife, and part of a revolution of love. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Michael. Thank you to every child who danced with us. You didn't just change your own lives, you changed the world. The theater erupted in applause. On stage, the Patterson family embraced, each member a vital piece of that mosaic of love. Ethan at the center, the catalyst for all that transformation. Michael whispered in Emily's ear, I still think you saved us. She whispered back, and we saved each other. The ceremony ended with a surprise performance. 100 children from different schools, all participants in the program, took the stage. The music began. How Great Is My Love for You, the same song that had united Michael and Ethan years earlier. The children danced, each at their own pace with their supports, their wheelchairs, their unique ways. It was chaotic and beautiful, imperfect and absolutely perfect. Ethan joined them, leading without leading, just being one more in the crowd of differences. Emily danced seated, her large belly limiting her movements but not her expressiveness. Michael spun Olivia while the twins created their own choreography. Even Mason, in Jennifer's arms as she stood on stage, moved his little arms to the rhythm. Here it was more than a performance. It was a statement. We are different, we are unique, and we are extraordinary exactly as we are. When the music ended, silence lasted only a second before the ovation. On their feet, 1,000 people applauded, Not just the performance, but the idea, the movement, the quiet revolution that had begun with a teacher and a boy in a schoolyard. Backstage, as the family prepared to leave, Ethan pulled Michael and Emily aside. "I have something to tell you." "What is it, sweetheart?" Emily asked, always attentive. "I got an offer. Columbia University wants me to lead a research center for inclusive dance. It would be the first of its kind in the US. Michael's eyes widened. "Ethan, that's incredible." "But there's a catch," Ethan continued. "They want Emily to be co-director. And Dad, we'd need someone to handle administration and fundraising." Emily and Michael exchanged glances. "Are you offering us jobs, son?" Michael asked with a smile. "I'm offering a continuation of what we started 10 years ago, but now bigger, reaching more people. What do you say?" Emily touched her belly. "With 5 kids, running a research center." "You handle 5 kids, Emily," Ethan laughed. "A research center will be easy." Michael hugged his son. "Of course we'll do it. Where you go, we go." "It's not about going where I go," Ethan corrected. "It's about going together. It always has been." That evening at the Patterson family home, now an adapted mansion with ramps, railings, and a full dance studio, everyone gathered for dinner. The enormous table held not just the immediate family, but friends who had become family over the years. Jacob and his family, Diane from the dance group, the physical therapist Dr. Rebecca, even Mrs. Thompson, now retired but still close. "A toast," Michael proposed, standing. 10 years ago, I was a broken man who thought I needed to fix my son. Today I understand it was he who fixed me. It was Emily who showed us the way. It was love in all its imperfect and wonderful forms that brought us here. To love, everyone cheered. "And to dance," Ethan added. "May we never stop dancing, each in our own way." As dinner continued with overlapping conversations and laughter filling the air, Emily watched her family. In a few hours, Haley would be born, completing, for now, their brood. Each child a unique blessing, each teaching different lessons about love and acceptance. She took Michael's hand under the table, lacing their fingers. He squeezed back, that simple gesture saying everything. "We're together. We always have been. We always will be." Across the table, Ethan was teaching Mason to tap out a rhythm with silverware. The twins argued over who told the funniest story of the day. Olivia read a book, but kept one ear on the conversation, ready to correct any factual errors. It was loud, chaotic, imperfect. It was family. It was perfect. When Haley was born 6 hours later, with Michael, Ethan, and all the siblings waiting, anxiously in the maternity ward, the doctor announced, "It's a healthy baby girl, strong, and look at this. She's already moving her little legs like she's dancing." Ethan smiled, holding his youngest sister's tiny hand. "Welcome to the dancing family, Haley. You'll see. Here we fly." And so, the Patterson family continued their dance through life. Not a perfect dance, but a true one, where stumbles became steps, where limitations turned into possibilities, where love, in its purest and most unconditional form, was the music guiding every movement. The research center opened a year later, becoming an international reference. Ethan traveled the world, bringing the American method of inclusion through dance. Emily wrote books and trained thousands of teachers. Michael used his business influence to ensure no child was left without access to the program due to lack of resources. But at the end of each day, no matter where they were or what they had achieved, they returned home. To the backyard where it all began, now part of the house, transformed into a living memorial of an afternoon that changed everything. And there, under the same stars that witnessed a father learning to cry, a teacher learning to love, and a boy learning to fly, the Patterson family danced, each in their own way, all together, forever. The end of the story, dear listener, I hope. This story touched your heart as deeply as it touched mine to tell it. If you've made it this far, leave a comment letting us know where you're watching from and what you thought of Ethan and his family's journey. Don't we all have a little bit of Ethan inside us, waiting for someone like Emily to teach us to dance in our own way? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like the video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. so you don't miss other moving stories like this one.